These raspberry chipotle ribs are smoked on a pellet grill, and they are the best ribs I have ever made. So the first thing we need to do for our ribs today is we're gonna cut them open. So on the back side of ribs, there is a membrane that we need to peel off. And the reason why we peel off the membrane is because when you go to take a bite of the rib, it's gonna kind of hold the meat to the bone. And the goal is to get the meat to come clean off the bone. Now, this is very difficult to do just with bare hands. A lot of people use a paper towel to get it. And if I get lucky, I'll be able to actually get this off. But as you can see, it's this kind of like little layer of, I don't know what it is. It's the membrane, whatever membrane is. If you're a scientist, you can comment down below and let me know. So normally this will peel off in a couple different spots and you have to restart whatever you're peeling. If I'm lucky, I can get it to all go in one. If you're finding yourself not capable of doing this, you can just take your knife and score it. So I'm just gonna rip this off, and it almost all came off for me. So this is what it looks like. This will not render down when you cook it, and it's gonna stop your seasoning from being able to penetrate into the meat, which is gonna make it less flavorful, less tender. This is gonna make the meat tough and chewy. So I'll throw that away, and then now wherever it ripped, just come back and start over again. And today I'm using these St. Louis style ribs. If you have baby back ribs, that's gonna have a membrane too, but it's just gonna be a little bit different. With these, there's this little like flap of meat that's on here, and you're not gonna be able to get underneath that. So it's just gonna be this little section right here that has the membrane, and we're good to go. Now that our membrane is peeled off, we're just gonna go ahead and trim up our ribs. Now, if you guys see, there's some spots of fat that are really thick right here. This is not gonna render down. That, if you get that in a bite, that's gonna be gross. You're just gonna spit it out, throw it in the garbage. So we're just gonna go through here, and all these really, really thick pieces of fat, we're gonna go ahead and trim up. And on ribs, I mean, I don't do a ton of trimming on the other side. This looks pretty good to me right here. Let's flip it over. And as you guys see, I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and shave this spot down a little bit right here. Gonna take that off. But other than that, if you guys look, all this marbling right here is really great. Some of this thick stuff right here, you could probably get away with leaving it on, but for the sake of the video, I'm just gonna show you. Very, very thin piece of fat. Don't think you need to take much off. A lot of this is gonna render out in our cook. And yeah, I'm thinking this looks good, guys. So again, if your ribs look like this, you're fine. You don't need to get crazy and take off every single little bit of fat that you see. If it's over like a 1/4 inch thick, if it's over that thick, you should probably take it off. It's not gonna render and it's gonna be a gristly bite. So now, go ahead and get some paper towel. And we're just getting those factory juices off. I have no idea what they are, but they scare me. I have nightmares about them being in my food. I don't like them. I don't think that they make your meat taste any better. I don't know what they are. I don't know what they do in factories, but I just like to make sure I wipe it all off so we have a clean slate. Now, when we season, like how I do with all my food, we always want to start with the underside, because the top side, the meat side, is going to be our presentation side. So we let our ribs sit in the seasoning for about 10 to 15 minutes, just long enough for that seasoning to really adhere to the meat and kind of penetrate into it. We're gonna build up a nice flavor profile. Today, we're smoking at 275 degrees on my RecTec 1250, and we are using Bear Mountain pellets. It's a tri-blend that has some oak, some some cherry, some maple, some really good smoke flavors. That's gonna help our meat get a great taste. We're gonna open up our smoker, set them on the rack. We're just gonna kind of bunch them up a little bit because they're gonna cook the way that they are on there. Then we're gonna close our smoker, and at this point, we're just gonna let these roll in the smoke. I typically don't spray them. I have in the past. I really don't know if it does a difference at all. I don't think it does, so I just want to get about a good 2.5 hours of smoke on these ribs to really build up a nice exterior, a nice crust before I put them in our wrap. So I'll come back out on the next shot, and I'll tell you guys how long I waited. I'll see you guys then. Our ribs are quickly approaching the 2.5 hour mark out on our smoker. So what I want to do at this point is prepare my wrap. All you're going to do is take some heavy duty, extra long aluminum foil, and you're just going to rip off some sheets. You're gonna rip them off about as long as this. So if you could see this in the video, you know, just that long. And I like to use 2 sheets when I do it. So the reason why I do 2 sheets is because when you go to put these ribs back on the grill, it's gonna collect a lot of like liquids on the bottom, and if it's not thick enough and you go to move those ribs, it'll tear open. Grease is gonna spill out everywhere. Your smoker is gonna start on fire. I've done it before, so make sure you have baking soda nearby your smoker. It's a horrible, horrible time. So heavy duty, extra long, and 2 sheets. That's my pro advice. So if you're making ribs, you might as well get good butter. Stop buying the cheap Great Value butter and all the other butter. Get some good butter, okay? Kerrygold's, some good butter. Now, I am only gonna wanna use probably about 2.5 lines. I don't know how many tablespoons it is, you could figure that out. But just to do 2.5 lines, okay? And we're just gonna cut it. And I'm only gonna be making 1 layer of butter, and I'm gonna cut this into about 4, 5, 6 little mini strips. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna cut one, and all I'm doing is I'm gonna layer it in about as long as I think the ribs are. So this doesn't need to be perfect. And when you're doing this, don't be dumb like me and cut it on the foil, because you could probably cut your foil when you do that, but you know, I'm a trained professional, so you don't want to slice your fingers when you're doing it either, so that would not be good. You get blood on your ribs. You don't want blood on your ribs. So this looks like about the length of what like my ribs are gonna be, and this butter is just adding some fat, and fat for one is flavor, and it's gonna add moisture when we have this wrap on there. And the goal of this wrap is to tenderize our ribs, so we wanna have moisture. All right, so now that we have our butter on there, I'm gonna take some brown sugar. This is to add sweetness, richness, sticky. When you mix this brown sugar and this butter together, the flavor that it makes is incredible. Butter and brown sugar, it's what you put on burnt ends. It's a typical barbecue thing. And you don't wanna put a crazy amount on here, but I mean, I'd say that's probably good. That's like 2 handfuls. So if you have hands this big, you know, just do 2 handfuls. Now at this point, it's completely customizable, whatever you wanna do. Whatever I'm gonna be glazing my ribs in, today I'm using the Blues Hog Raspberry Chipotle. I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit on here. A lot of people like to use honey or, you know, syrup or some kind of combination of the two. A lot of people like to use like apple juice or apple cider. I don't know, I've always had really good luck with my ribs when I just do butter, brown sugar. I don't do anything crazy. And then just a little bit of this barbecue sauce. So now we're gonna go out and get our ribs. So we are right at 2.5 hours on our ribs. I just wanna show you what they look like so that you can kind of get a gauge for yourself on when you wanna wrap. There's a lot of debate over when you should wrap. A lot of people go by a strict temperature that they use. I, however, it's a different temperature every time. I don't even check the temperature. I go by looks. I wanna be able to look at my ribs and start to see that the meat is peeling back from the bones a little bit. I also wanna see that we're getting a really nice red mahogany color. I even like to see a little bit of black, a little bit of char on there. That just lets me know that my rub is completely set onto my ribs and it's not gonna fall off when I put it in my wrap. The goal is to get smoke on our meat, and you can't get smoke on your meat if it's in a wrap, but we don't wanna smoke them straight all the way, because if you get too much smoke on your meat, it could really burn the outside. You can get a nasty smoke flavor, and it takes a long time for them to get tender if they're not in a wrap. So now we have all that information, let's go inside and wrap our ribs. So we have our ribs inside now. This is the meat side of the ribs. The underside is not what we want to sit on this mess. So I just like to take it and flip it over like this. Just make sure it's centered on there real nice. And now folding it, there's 100 different ways that you could do it. First off, I just want to look at these bones are already starting to get nice peel back. So that's a very good sign. I'm just gonna pick it up like this. I'm gonna do one fold, press it, and then I'm gonna crimp my edges, do one fold over, make sure that's nice and tight. And then I just like to make a little handle, fold it over like that, fold this. Now you just got like little handles. You can just pick up your ribs. This is sealed nice and tight. So let's take this back out to our smoker. Now that our ribs are in the wrap, we have them back on the smoker. I'm gonna let them go for about 1 hour. In about 1 hour, I'm gonna come out and check them, and we're gonna see what the internal temperature is. When I like to do ribs, I like to kind of overcook them a little bit. I like them fall off the bone, super tender, super juicy. Not the same as a pulled pork, but I mean, kind of pretty close. And if that's not your thing, you might want to do this for about 45 minutes or 30 minutes and check the internal temperature. If you want that competition bite, you want to pull them off around 190 degrees and then glaze them. But me, I'm cool with just whatever. I'll let them roll past 200 degrees and not even care about it. So I'm going to come back out in 1 hour. I'll see you guys then. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my foil and I'm gonna make a little boat for my ribs. So that way we don't get any juices all over our smoker. And then I actually wanna get them flipped over. So once I have my boat made, I'm gonna take my tongs, and these ribs are gonna be very, very tender at this point. So you wanna be careful that you don't break them. So you're very, very easy to break. I wanna stand this up, let all that liquid drain off. And then we're gonna get that right there. Normally, I like to add some sort of a sauce to this, but I'm just taking the barbecue sauce, Blues Hog, raspberry chipotle, and I'm just putting a bunch on there. And then from there, I'm gonna take and I'm gonna paint it on. So our goal here is to get these super glazed and that nice thick barbecue sauce. Oh yeah, look at that. These ribs are like candy. Has a really nice finish, really nice sheen. Let's go ahead and paint up these bones down here. You need to get a manicure or pedicure, I don't know, whichever one it is. Now let's get it back on the smoker. So we're just gonna open it up really quick. Make sure you don't burn yourself. Just go ahead, set it on there, and we're gonna get it shut back down. Now that we have our ribs painted up, all we want to do is let it sit on there for about another 10-15 minutes. They're already fully cooked, so we don't need to worry about taking another temperature reading. That's it. We're gonna let it sit on there. When they're done, I'm gonna bring them inside. I'm gonna let them rest for probably about a good 15-20 minutes. They are super, super hot. And then we're gonna slice into them and get to enjoy. What's up, guys? I am super excited. These ribs look sticky, they look glazy, they look delicious. The bones are showing, they got great pullback. There's nothing wrong with these ribs at all. So I have a little bone here that I'm gonna pick up and try. We're gonna take a bite out of it. I think I'm gonna go with this side. This side is more of the meat on it. All right, guys, let's go. So if you guys see, we have a clean bite, clean off the bone. You can almost see my teeth marks through them. This meat is cooked perfectly. Even though it was all the way up there, around like 208, 209, 12, whatever it was degrees, the meat's still sticking to the bone. I mean, if I took it and I peeled it, yeah, I could peel it right off the bone, but it's not mushy to where when you take a bite, the whole thing comes off. Sometimes when ribs are overcooked and you go to take a bite, you can't just bite through it. It rips off everything around it and it tears off. And I think that's what people don't like about ribs that are overcooked, but these ribs are so tender. I'm gonna give you guys another bite. On the underside of these ribs, I'm getting a lot of that good salt flavor. And on the top of these ribs, this raspberry chipotle barbecue sauce is literally insane. It has such a good flavor. It's It's almost like when you eat it, you're confused. It's like, am I eating like a barbecue sauce, or am I eating something that's fruity, or am I eating something that has those like chili powders, like that chipotle flavor? It is just so many flavors happening at one time in your mouth, along with their rub, along with that salt, pepper, garlic. I just absolutely love how these ribs turned out. I promise if you make these for your friends or family, they're gonna absolutely love it. I made these before. We devour them every single time. You guys have to give this a try. If you found this video useful in any way, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna be putting out as many videos as I can. Like this video, share it with your friends, or you could just make this recipe and share that with them. Go make these, put them on your neighbor's front steps, knock on their door, and just run away. It's like a sweet little gift from God. Everything I use in this video to make these, I'll make sure I have the link down in the description below. If you guys want to see another great video, make sure you check out this one right here. And as always, I'll see you guys in my next ribby.